reggae has been influenced by Rastafari. And dancehall come out of reggae. But just like how sometimes you have fast food because the people can't wait and they want to do it quick. Like somebody who don't want to have a good relationship, so they want just a quick one-night stand. No, dancehall is like that. Very impatient and want to be a reactionary without thinking of the fundamentals and the long term. And we say, if Rasta in a reggae, then reggae fi in a Rasta. And we also say, if reggae in a dancehall, then dancehall fi in a reggae. That means to say we carry this struggle into even another sphere. And so that, you know, it's an emanation of it. And we try to represent elements and components of that emanation into the music to counsel the people, to bring them forward to a reminder of them who themselves and who they are. Because Rasta not only there for this African people. Because Mama Africa gave birth to all humanity. And everyone that walk upon the planet Earth that call themselves a human being. They could trace the history through genetics, ethnography, archaeology and anthropology to the cradle of human civilization. So you can't escape. And if you rape Mama Africa, then you know you rape your own mother. It is sacrilegious, diabolical, and incestuous. And try to do good, then good will follow you. If you do otherwise, I wouldn't even want to tell you what will follow you. Death and destruction and decay. So we're saying we all have a duty to restore our Mother Africa to our throne and honor of glory, majesty, beauty, so that we can divorce ourselves from the stigma and the insult and the disrespect and the decay that is attendant to violating a sacred mother and father. It's not like we're quarreling to people because we're looking some money, called reparations. No. As a matter of fact, if you ask I to advise you on reparations, I will tell you that let it be as little money as possible. Return the burning brands, the Magdala collection. Apologize. Talk the truth that you substitute for some lies that you preach today and teach to the people in education and religion and social and political and economic terms, and military terms as well. And we are saying infrastructure development that is accessible to all. So education, food, clothes and shelter, which is in harmony with the creed of I&I. And you could also, try to reverse some of the instrument of colonization. And it could help to reinstate the tongue of the people. Because you think in the language that you speak, so your language shape your thinking, your thinking dictate your language. So the restoration of your languages, your artifacts, intellectual property rights, the restoration of your religions and your economic and social and political and spiritual orders reinstated, and counseling and a public apology and all the media houses for maybe 1 year straight. Start out the truth of what was there. The distortion of the facts, you need to come now, repeat it so much that people really realize that yes, it's true. We remain confident and steadfast in the knowledge that His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I is the authority, is the liberator, the redeemer. We also accept the divinity and humanity of His Imperial Majesty, and likewise our own divinity and humanity of His and Her Imperial Majesties, Emperor Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen, because we cannot afford to attempt to divorce the God from the goddess, the yin from the yang, the X from the Y chromosome, the male from the female, the father from the mother, the sun from the moon. You could continue. You get the point. So, you see, Haile Selassie and Rastafari represent the totality of... Can you see, look at it this way. It's like you have a car, and you buy it brand new, and the front end is very good. But then so much pothole and different things happen, that when you turn this way, it wants to go the other way. So you need to realign and recalibrate. So His Majesty is that high chief scientist engineer who could come and realign and recalibrate. Well, it happened to the humanity now. So He's the chief calibrator of the mindset of humanity to spirituality. And so we as His Prento, we are practitioners of the levity of spirituality to help Him with line up at the front end of the human experience. So all these things Rastafari represent to I&I, so that we can navigate fully the journey of humanity and to fulfill the purpose. Now, this is like the refreshment that you would give your guests when they come to your house. Like somebody come to your house and you know that they are vegetarian or something, you give them what they are comfortable with, that they can be a worthy and honored guest. When the spirit come to reason with you, you can't give him dumpling or orange or rice and peas or ackee and saltfish or whatever you would give somebody in the physical. So the incense and essence of the herb, that is the food that they'll accept. They don't eat dumpling or banana or cane or star apple. So you give them what they will manage to eat. So the herb now is that food of the spirit, that when they come now and you have the incense, then they feel entertained. It's almost like that is the food that they partake of. That generate maybe an esoteric space within which they can function and communicate. On another level now, let us equate it to the chalice. Let us speak about the Catholic Church as an example. They drink the wine and eat the bread or biscuit or something that the pastor put on your tongue. Good. Now they said at the same time that happened, it's not even figurative or literal. It's not figurative, but it's literal. So you know that you drink the blood of Christ and you eat him flesh. Well, that is their thinking. No. The Rastaman don't have to eat any flesh or drink any blood. And the Rastaman don't deal with just the 2 dimension. It's the 3 dimension and more. So when you put this herb in the chalice, you have the water, the fire, the air, and others, because you have the substance in itself. When you commune now, you draw from the chalice and the air come through the herb, filtered into the water, come back through your lungs and go back into the atmosphere. So it is a communion to bring you into oneness with the divine cosmic intelligence and to bring you to a state of restoration. Just like you have 2 material and you use a filler material and join them through soldering or welding. So it plays that function, and therefore it helps to unlock the genetic memory codes. Because I am challenging the scientists in the world right now that they must reveal to the world what they know or don't know about the red nucleus, which I call the fire nucleus. Only the high educated scientists are aware of these things. But we are aware, even though some of us can hardly read and write. And you maybe don't know for yourself, but other people know. There is a nucleus in the brain called the red nucleus. I call it the fire nucleus. Well, it's only the essence and chemical substance from this herb can access the red nucleus and the fire nucleus. Some people equate this to the soul. So this feed the spiritual dimension of man and help we to make a better connection with the divine cosmic intelligence, so that we can commune with the spirits and with the irids and with the spirit and be in harmony with the Almighty, so that we can pray ceaselessly through the power of omnipotence, omniscient and omnipresence. His Majesty is the head of the Nyabingi order. We said death to all dung pressers. Originally it was death to all white oppressors. But sometimes people are unfortunate to find themselves in the ranks of the dung pressers. So whether you want to be black or white, it no matter. For your dung presser is death and destruction, because the truth must rise and reign supreme again, as it were in the beginning. So the Nyabingi order is important in that construct now, to give us the energy and the science and the insight to ensure that we are instrument of the Almighty, which is responsible for the destruction of all forces of evil that rise up against righteousness, and so that we can perpetuate and reinstate righteousness in its position of power and authority. But Pinnacle was a community established by Honorable Leonard Percival Howell, Ganguru Maharaj, who we give credit as being one of the early pioneers that ushered in the faith and movement and liberty of Rastafari. Now, the Pinnacle community was really a community built on the notion of Afrocentricity, self-reliance, group reliance, and in a space unencumbered by the dictates of the establishment and the system. I will go with that. Marijuana ganja was used as a convenient pretext to violate and invade that space and to dismantle it. Until now we know that it has been carved up and been in the hands of other people in questionable ways and methods and circumstances, so much so that it is now before the court. I've been told recently by Sister Hodish Howell of the Howell Dynasty
Foundation.
The whole foundation of parcels are part of that land being restored to the community. So it is a starting point, this is a step in the right direction. But we think that the Rastafari community, as well as the government and people of Jamaica and people of conscience elsewhere, should see it as our duty to help for the restoration of Pinnacle, to continue serving the purpose that it was mandated for, which is, speaking to self-reliance, group reliance, Rastafari taking care of self, Rastafari cultivating the formula and the mechanism to unlock the ancient memory codes and to create and construct the spaceship of the ancient future. Well, in the 1959 to 1960s, the state unleashed terror on the Rastafarians in Jamaica. Many Rastafarians contemplated a military solution, and the elders said, no, let us take the diplomatic solution. And so they petitioned the then premier, I think it was Norman Manley. And I think 3 professors from the University of the West Indies, Simit, Algier and Nettleford, had this research, this study into Rastafari, and several of the findings informed and inspired a Back to Africa movement, which included 3 of the Rastafarian members from the community who invited His Imperial Majesty to visit Jamaica. This invitation was extended on the 21st of April 1961. When they returned to Jamaica, there was a difference in terms of opinion of some of the members of the delegation, and it kind of created a negative energy, which allowed the establishment to kind of muscle in. And again, for several reasons, people wanted to disrupt the progress of Rastafari. And so Bustamante at the time led the security forces against an onslaught against Rastafari. So happened that some brethren had a conflict with some other people in Coral Garden outside of Montego Bay, which resulted in they doing something which was a bit indiscreet. And so the gas station burned and people were maimed or murdered. And then that became the convenient pretext, for the onslaught of Rastafari, which happened on the 11th of April 1963, 50 years ago. And so this happened on what is maybe known as the eve of Good Friday, so the Rastafari call it Bad Friday. And so Rastas were trimmed and killed and brutalized and stigmatized and vilified and reduced to being perceived as a black heart man who will drink people's blood and eat them heart, and children were made to fear and people were trimmed and ridiculed and disrespected. So the Coral Garden incident essentially emanated from that construct that I just painted. And this 50th anniversary of that atrocity was commemorated this year. And up to now, the government has not issued a formal apology, nor offered restitution to the displacement and the attack on an indigenous population of the Jamaican people, namely the Rastafarians. So now that we hear of the Tivoli inquest and inquiry, and we know that the Bacawal experience was linked into the whole scheme of things, and in the 90s to the year 2000, some Rasta youth were brutally evicted from Tivoli. So we would see it as a time for the healing and harmonizing of Jamaica, to revisit the Coral Garden incident. So that is what I know of it and think of it up to the moment. Well, based on the consensus in the community and what is documented historically. It was just a community wherein many members of the Rastafarian who never have access and the wherewithal to acquire proper real estate were there, which the names imply back a wall beyond. And they wanted to do some development, which is what is in today's day known as the Tivola Garden garrison community. And so Rastafarian, being the dregs of the society, in the eyes of the society, they just get to the youth to do what they have to do. And so while they think they would have undermined the movement, it's like them scatter the fire. It can be extrapolated, and the actions would suggest that it was an attempt to get rid of Rastafari, and that is why I deliberately said them only spread the fire, because the Bobo camp and many other communities is like you try to stamp out a fire, so but if one spark drop down this one, catch against a piece of fire. And so you have fire not one place now but several other places with renewed vigor and the experiences of this experience to bring to that new experience. And so yeah, we have always seen the Coral Garden incident again could be interpreted as an attempt. Certain of the rumor that surrounded the visit of His Imperial Majesty and certain of his utterances, I think, were deliberate. The assassination of Bob Marley and the desecration to a certain extent of reggae music and the promulgation of certain music and certain artists was again an attempt to silence and to quieten the message of liberation of reggae and the practitioners. And the society create a monster which get out of hand and which them can't manage. So them sorry, so them didn't even do that. I was invited by Nanda or Tankos, the Rastafarian Member of Parliament of the Green Party in New Zealand, to do a presentation in New Zealand Parliament. And I was traveling to Japan. Well, I was going to England, Wales, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, back to Australia, back to Japan, back to England, and back to Jamaica. So I actually was acquiring my Australian visa in London. Now I was given an invitation by extension the government and people of New Zealand to the presentation there. I was traveling through Australia and wanted to stop over in Australia, both to and from, to connect with the Aboriginal people and so on. Interestingly, the New Zealand embassy did not ask me for a transcript of my presentation to the Parliament, but neither Japan, but Australia did. Australia demanded I give them the full text of my presentation to the New Zealand Parliament, not to the Australian Parliament, to the New Zealand Parliament. And they made it quite difficult, really. We had to push back and we had to be assertive. And then when we entered into the country again, you could see that I was not the most welcome. As a matter of fact, the type of person I am and how I do go about this presentation, I don't go from a scripted text. I had to do that just to satisfy them. And immigration, you could see, and how you see they treat the Aboriginal people from this farmer prison island. And thief not officially thief with long bag. So you can understand why Australia might be like that, based on who they are and their history. And if you see how they treat the Aboriginal people, and if you see how the Maori survive and are at a better space, I think, in New Zealand, it's consistent. So we understand that. And I don't carry malice or bitterness from these things. I learn to smile and I have the presence of mind to smile and to penetrate and to employ honorable subversion to dismantle the barriers and boundaries.
Okay.
We see Rastafari collectively being discriminated against as it relates to provisions in legal, educational, social, political systems and order of Jamaica and elsewhere. I was in the UK doing some support work for the penal justice system, and many Rastafarian brethren complained to I and I how they were not given the similar privileges and rights of other faith-based groups inside the penal justice system. And I challenged the chaplain general, and to cut the story short, it is now law in the UK and Rastafari given the similar rights and privileges and attendant responsibilities in the penal justice system there. The same thing has not happened in the United States of America, and the same thing has not happened in Jamaica as yet. Well, the visit of His Imperial Majesty to Jamaica on the 21st of April 1966, if you were to be a student of comparative study, then you could equate it to the entry of Christ into Jerusalem, possible Muhammad into Mecca. Now, this is His Imperial Majesty visiting Jamaica, the tabernacle, womb and grave of the transatlantic triangle, out of which the concept and the seed concept of Rastafari were born. We are the children of the grave which became a womb and give birth to the birth and the rebirth of Rastafari. So His Majesty the Father visiting this piece of rock at that point in time. Don't forget that we became a so-called independent nation just a few years before that. The invitation was extended to His Imperial Majesty on the 21st of April 1966, exactly 5 years to the day and date, by the 3 members of the Rastafarian delegation. So the invitation was extended before Jamaica became an independent nation. Jamaica became an independent nation subsequent to the invitation. The Queen of England hung out with His Imperial Majesty Palace before His Majesty visited Jamaica. I don't want to go into my own interpretation of all of that, but there are so many significance to it that it is mind-boggling. Anyhow, suffice to say that His Imperial Majesty entry into Jamaica at that point in time, given that background and certain other things that were happening, was really like a sledgehammer blow to the system. Because His Majesty was even asked to denounce the people of Jamaica by other members of faith-based communities. And His Imperial Majesty asserted that you cannot question the faith of others, and people of faith should know that. No one can interfere in the realm of the Almighty God. You need not question the faith of others. And you should peacefully coexist with people of different persuasion. So therefore, that was not possible. And so His Majesty visited this now to validate, energize, quicken, lift up, break the bandage of dumb oppression and ridicule and disrespect, and elevate and energize and motivate and lift up the community. The music of reggae which came out subsequent to that is not by accident and can be connected to this as well. And it is the testimony of many of the great reggae practitioners, including Bonnie Wheeler, Peter Tosh, Rita Marley and Bob Marley himself, among many others. And some of the elders who were counseling the students of Bob and the others. So I'm saying that visit of His Imperial Majesty has so much physical, immediate, political, social, spiritual, symbolic, philosophical impact and influence. We don't finish measure it as yet. It is like an earthquake, sledgehammer. And let us describe something briefly to you. Rasta came from far and near. It was overcast. Rain was falling. The cloud covered the rays of the sun. Suddenly, the clouds were scattered. The sun shone right through. A flock of birds ushered in the aircraft with the colors of the red, green, and gold. And the plane landed on the tarmac, and the voice go up of 1,000,000,000 lion roar. And all their formal plans were dismantled and the natural order took over. Now, all the flags that were on the flagpole were wet and drooped and limp and bowed. And a Rasta man had the presence of mind to climb the flagpole and put a dry Ethiopian flag. So all flags bow under the red, green, and gold. Wonder if you see my try to say. That seemed like a simple matter, but in symbology, it is quite significant. And in terms of the scheme of things that are happening, the rainbow was there as well to visit the emperor, to be like an arch for the glory of the King of Kings. So there is so much more I could say, you know, but it was very significant. And the Catholic and the Vatican and the Anglican and the Presbyterian and the Seventh-day Adventists, everyone come to the table of atonement and a reconciliation. and let us, one earth, one love, one humanity. Yes, I am a citizen of Africa and Europe, but I am a citizen of the planet. We are a member of the family of humanity. And every family has father, mother, and child. Like the sun, moon, and star. Humanity is no different. So, you know, this idea of healing, reconciliation, resetting of the collective human mindset, so that we are genuine brothers and sisters, and that Mama Africa can go and give us our breast milk, and our tenderness, and our knowledge, and everything that we make all humanity and all inhabitants of the planet Earth better citizens of Earth, better human being, and be the recipient of immortality, because energy cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. So we, the children of humanity, we have the honor and the gift of immortality, but there's a formula, and the formula is love. That's why we say one love. Yeah.
Perfect.
Give thanks. So we could give you a little chance.